We Bury the Dead is being marketed as a zombie thriller, and it's really not that at all. So hopefully here I can get you excited about the movie you're actually going to see. In this film, a United States weapon of mass destruction is accidentally deployed right off the coast of the island of Tanzania, leaving 500,000 people dead. And this results in a mass effort to identify and recover corpses. People from all different nations are chipping in to help, and Daisy Ridley shows up trying to find her husband, who was on a work trip in Tanzania when the explosion happened. But some of the bodies are coming back to life. This is not an action zombie film. This is a movie where the external horror of the zombies is there to reflect the horrors that the characters are going through internally. The zombies are more of a metaphorical device to reflect the grief and loss that Daisy Ridley's character is experiencing than they are an actual physical threat for the majority of the film, because she's going through a situation that probably everyone who's lost someone close to them experiences, where she thought she had a lot more time with her husband and there were a lot of things that were left unsaid when he very abruptly was taken away from her. So she's trying to find some form of closure even as things get increasingly hopeless. And as she goes on this journey, the film is so much more about the terror of things left unsaid and loose ends that she's never going to get to tie off with her husband. And we get to see through various flashbacks that they didn't necessarily leave things in a very clean way. And the whole thing is tracked really well by Daisy Ridley's performance. I thought she was great in this movie. The journey that this film takes us on is much more in tune with what's on this woman's mind than the logistics and the mechanics of how the zombies work. If you're really into like zombie lore, you're not going to get much of that here. What you are going to get is a character study about someone who's just trying to make their way to their spouse's almost certainly dead body to get some form of closure. And we don't fully understand what is driving her or some of the characters who are helping her throughout the film until legitimately the last 10 minutes of the movie. It's very risky in that way because we don't get reveals about their motives for the majority of the runtime. And I spent a very long time feeling kind of in the dark about the engine that's driving these characters. But in the end, certain discoveries are made that rationalize their behavior for the prior 90 minutes. It just unfolds in a very non-conventional way without feeding you some exposition in the first 15 minutes that's going to help you kind of contextualize these characters' motivations. And I love a movie that takes chances like that, but it does run the risk of not really delivering on the promise of its premise. And I don't want to make it sound like this film is totally devoid of tension or action, because there are some really exciting scenes that have me on the edge of my seat, particularly a very long sequence in the middle of the movie that takes place in a country bed and breakfast where the tension just keeps ramping up to pretty unbearable levels. I thought it was great. The film does get off to a pretty rough start. The first act is heavily dependent on flashbacks and dream sequences, which just kept taking me out of the moment and made it hard for the narrative to build any kind of momentum because we weren't staying in the present for very long. And I just feel like although the information that we're given from the past is very pertinent, it was front loaded a bit too much in a way that made it hard for the story to achieve liftoff for a while. The film also, I think, requires a consistent suspension of disbelief. Even though this is an unprecedented event with 500,000 dead bodies, I can't see the world governments bringing in John and Jane Doe citizens from different countries to help with this effort before they've really clearly identified the risks involved, and they don't seem to fully understand how these zombies operate. And I just didn't really buy that they would be bringing in random people and risking them getting eaten by zombies. Also, characters have to get from point A to point B at certain points to make certain discoveries, and it wasn't always done very smoothly. There were times where I was wondering, why are you running into that building instead of into the woods? But then it was made pretty clear that the screenplay needed characters there. It just asks you to go along with a lot of things to make the story work. And at times, I think the budget limits the film a little bit. The CGI is not always all that great. The zombies look really good. They're very frightening. The makeup work is fantastic. But there are times where we get shots of the entire island, and I just didn't really buy what I was looking at. And I think the movie could have benefited from having a more grounded approach to the cinematography, maybe keeping us in these characters' shoes exclusively and only showing us what they can see from their perspective. I think that would have helped immerse me in the experience a little bit more. But overall, I had a great time with We Bury the Dead. It was a very non-conventional zombie film that sets itself apart from others in the genre by using the zombies in a way that's very thematically resonant and in a way that's probably going to connect with some people who don't usually care for this sort of subject matter, if those people are given a reason to go watch it in theaters. And that's what I'm hoping to do here. This is a very different movie that is nothing like the trailers project it to be. And for me, I really appreciated that. And for all of those reasons, We Bury the Dead gets a B. If you're looking for something to watch this weekend, I think you can do a lot worse than We Bury the Dead. I recommend this one. If you have seen the movie, please let me know what you thought of it. If you enjoyed this video, please do like and subscribe, and I'll see you at the movies.